Every morning we wake up and dive right back into the same old cycle. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, and then repeat. Day after day. It's the same routine, like an endless loop that just never seems to break. But have you ever stopped to wonder why? What's the point of it all? Maybe you felt it before, that strange, unsettling moment when everything suddenly feels meaningless, when the things that once seemed so important start to feel empty, when life itself starts to look less like a vibrant journey and more like a machine running on autopilot, without purpose, without reason. Albert Camus felt this too, but instead of letting himself drown in despair, he found an answer that could change the way you see life forever. For thousands of years, humanity had something to hold onto, a grand story that made sense of everything. Every birth, every struggle, every heartbreak had meaning because it was part of a divine plan. Life was tough, sure, but at least it had direction. Suffering wasn't just random pain. It was a test, a lesson, or even a step toward something greater. Death wasn't the end. It was just a doorway to another existence, a reunion with something higher. People found comfort in this belief. They looked up at the vast universe and saw purpose. They looked at their pain and found meaning. It was a certainty that made life bearable. But then, everything changed. The march of science reshaped the world. Charles Darwin came along and proposed that life wasn't crafted by divine hands, but shaped by the slow, indifferent process of evolution. The Big Bang Theory suggested the universe wasn't created with us in mind. It was simply the result of physical forces expanding and unfolding according to mathematical laws, not moral ones. Disease, natural disasters, suffering, these were no longer punishments or tests. They were random, chaotic, meaningless, and as these scientific explanations grew stronger, the old stories began to fade. Religion lost its grip, and with it, humanity lost something profound: certainty. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this coming. He famously declared, "God is dead." But this wasn't a victory chant, it was a warning. He didn't mean that some divine being literally died. He meant people stopped believing. Faith, which once structured society, morality, and human purpose, was crumbling. And when faith dies, certainty dies with it. For centuries, people had relied on religion to answer the big questions. Why are we here? What is our purpose? What happens after we die? But now, those answers were gone, and in their absence, only silence remained. A cold, indifferent universe stretched out endlessly, offering nothing, no purpose, no grand design, no final destination. This wasn't just an intellectual crisis, it was deeply personal, because when meaning is stripped away, so is stability. People were left staring into the void, trying to make sense of their own existence. If there's no higher purpose, then why get up in the morning? Why go to work? Why chase dreams, fall in love, build families, or strive for anything? If in the end it all dissolves into nothing, what's the point? For many, this realization was terrifying. Some fell into despair. Others clung desperately to illusions. Some numbed themselves with distractions, chasing money, status, pleasure, anything, to avoid facing the terrifying truth that maybe life is utterly meaningless. And that's where Albert Camus comes in. He stood at the edge of this existential crisis and refused to look away. He asked the same terrifying questions. He stared into the abyss, but instead of surrendering to despair, he found something unexpected: a way forward. A way not just to exist in a meaningless world, but to find joy in it. Humans have an unshakable need for meaning. It's hardwired into us. From the moment we're old enough to ask questions, we demand answers. Why are we here? What's our purpose? Is there something greater beyond all this? We look at the vastness of the universe, the stars stretching endlessly into infinity, and we expect it to respond, to tell us that we matter, that we belong, that our struggles, our joys, our love, none of it is in vain. But the universe stays silent. No voice calls back from the void. No divine script appears in the sky. No cosmic force reassures us that everything will be okay. Camus called this silence the absurd, the clash between our desperate need for meaning and a universe that refuses to provide one. It's like screaming into an empty canyon, waiting for an answer that will never come. And that silence, it's unbearable. So most people try to escape it. So, when faced with this unbearable silence, the absurd, how do people usually react? Camus noticed there are basically three common ways we try to cope with the meaninglessness of life. First, there's denial. Some people just refuse to accept that life might have no inherent meaning. Instead, they cling tightly to ready-made answers: religion, political ideologies, cultural stories. They build comforting narratives, believing some higher power or system has a grand plan. And sure, this can bring stability, but it often demands blind faith. It ignores the fact that the universe isn't obligated to give us meaning. Then, there's nihilism, the opposite extreme. If life has no meaning, some say, then nothing matters. Love, beauty, morality, they're all illusions. This belief can lead to despair, cynicism, even self-destruction. If nothing matters, why bother doing anything at all? Finally, the most common response: distraction. People drown out the existential void with work, money, entertainment, pleasure. They chase career success, social status, endless entertainment, or fleeting pleasures, anything, to avoid facing that terrifying truth that maybe life doesn't come with a pre-written purpose. Look around. How many people do you see endlessly scrolling on their phones, partying without joy, chasing wealth but never feeling satisfied? They're not truly living. They're running from the void, from the silence, from the fear that maybe life has no grand meaning. But Camus refused to run. He looked the absurd straight in the eye and did something no one expected. He embraced it, and in embracing it, he found a fourth way, a way not just to survive in a meaningless world, but to find real happiness. Camus found his answer in an ancient Greek myth, the story of Sisyphus. Sisyphus wasn't just any man. He was a king, cunning and rebellious, someone who refused to bow to fate. He tricked the gods, escaped the underworld, even tried to outsmart death itself. But the gods punished him in a way designed to break his spirit forever. His punishment: an eternity of meaningless labor. Every day, Sisyphus was forced to push a massive boulder up a steep mountain, and just when he neared the top, when it seemed like he might finally finish, the boulder would roll back down to the bottom, erasing all his effort. Again and again, endlessly, no rest, no reward, no escape. It was the ultimate curse. The gods knew physical suffering could be endured, but hopelessness, that's what destroys a man. And what could be more hopeless than a task that never ends, never changes, never means anything? Most people look at this story and shudder. It seems like the perfect metaphor for the futility of life itself. We wake up, we work, we chase dreams, we struggle, we lose, we try again, and in the end, we all meet the same fate: death. No matter how much we accomplish, no matter how far we climb, everything resets. Generations before us have worked, built, and strived only for their achievements to fade with time. Monuments crumble, names are forgotten, civilizations rise and fall. If life is just an endless cycle of struggle leading to nothing, what's the point? That's why many see Sisyphus as a tragic figure. His suffering is our suffering. His punishment is our daily grind, our unanswered questions, our endless search for meaning in a universe that doesn't respond. But Camus saw something different, something that flips the whole story upside down. What if Sisyphus is not suffering? What if Sisyphus is actually free? It sounds crazy at first. How could anyone be free in a situation like his? But here's what Camus realized. The moment Sisyphus accepts his fate, when he stops resisting, stops wishing things were different, he becomes more powerful than the gods who cursed him. The gods wanted to break him. They wanted him to suffer, under the weight of hopelessness. But what if he simply refuses to suffer? Imagine Sisyphus standing at the bottom of the mountain, watching his boulder roll back down. Instead of cursing the gods or falling into despair, he just shrugs, takes a deep breath, and starts pushing again. No complaints, no self-pity, no need for a grand reason. What if, as he walks back down to retrieve his boulder, he smiles? Camus famously wrote, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy," and that single line changes everything, because it means we're not crushed by meaninglessness, lest we choose to be. It means life's lack of inherent purpose is not a curse, it's an opportunity. Camus believed we are all Sisyphus. We wake up every morning, go to work, chase ambitions, fall, get up, build relationships, create things, and try to carve out a place in the world. And yes, ultimately, it all resets. Generations from now, nothing we do may be remembered. But does that mean what we do is worthless? Only if we choose to see it that way. Here's the key. Once we accept that life has no grand cosmic meaning, we are free to create our own. Think about it. If life had some ultimate predetermined meaning, we'd be trapped by it. We wouldn't be free, we'd just be following a script. But because there is no fixed meaning, we get to decide what matters to us. Instead of waiting for the universe to hand us a purpose, we realize we don't need one. We stop searching for some ultimate justification for our existence and start living for the experience itself, the joy, the struggle, the moments that make life worth living. That's the beauty of the absurd. This is what embracing the absurd really means. It's not about pretending life has some deep cosmic purpose. It's not about falling into despair and saying, nothing matters, so why try? It's about revolting against the absurd by choosing to live anyway. Not because we expect some grand reward, not because we believe in an afterlife, fate, or some divine script, but simply because we can. Because joy is possible even in a meaningless universe. Because we can choose to love, to create, to laugh, to explore not for some higher reason, but just because it's worth it in the moment. That's where true freedom lives. So, what does it actually mean to find freedom in the absurd? Instead of seeing life as a curse, we start to see it as a playground, a space where we're free to explore, to build, to fail, to experience everything fully without needing some external justification. That's why Camus said we must imagine Sisyphus happy. He knows his task will never end. He knows the boulder will always roll back down. But he pushes anyway, not because it will lead somewhere, but simply because he chooses to. And when we stop asking, what's the point, and start saying, why not? That's when we truly become free. That's when life becomes lighter, brighter, more exciting. Because instead of looking for a meaning that doesn't exist, we start creating one for ourselves. And in that moment, we win the game of the absurd. Camus didn't just leave his ideas as abstract philosophy. He believed absurdism wasn't just something to think about, it was something to live. It wasn't about sitting around contemplating the meaninglessness of existence. It was about embracing it and turning it into fuel for action. But how do we actually do that? How do we live an absurdist life in the real world? Here are 3 practical ways to start living with absurdist freedom. 1. Stop overthinking and start doing. Most of us spend a huge part of our lives trapped in overthinking. We get stuck in the what ifs. What if I fail? What if things don't work out? What if I make the wrong choice? We hesitate, analyze, wait for the right time. But here's the truth. The universe doesn't care. You could sit there worrying about every possible outcome, but none of it matters as much as you think it does. Lost your job, so what? The world keeps turning. Another opportunity will come. Failed at something. Who cares? The universe isn't keeping score. Made a mistake. Welcome to being human. Move on. Camus teaches us that life is absurd, unpredictable, and chaotic. Instead of wasting energy on overthinking, just take action. Because in the end, whether you succeed or fail, the boulder is going to roll back down anyway, so why stress over it? 2. Rebel by finding joy in the moment. Most people think meaninglessness is a reason to despair, but Camus saw it as an opportunity. Since life has no inherent meaning, you are completely free to enjoy it on your own terms. Think about it. When you laugh, even knowing life is meaningless, you are rebelling against the absurd. When you love, knowing that everything fades, you are rebelling against the absurd. When you create, knowing that nothing lasts forever, you are rebelling against the absurd. Every act of joy is a form of defiance. Instead of sitting around feeling lost or hopeless, rebel by embracing life anyway. Laugh loudly, love deeply, explore without needing a reason. 3. Flip the question. Why not? Most of us hesitate before making big decisions. Should I start that business? Should I take that risk? Should I travel, learn something new, or follow my passion? Our brain responds with a list of reasons why we shouldn't. It's risky. It might not work. It's not practical. What if I fail? But Camus would tell us to flip the question. Instead of asking, why should I? Ask, why not? Why not start that project? Why not take that risk? Why not live boldly? Because at the end of the day, the boulder is going to roll back down, no matter what. So why not have fun with it? Camus' absurdism isn't about surrendering to meaninglessness. It's about revolting against it by choosing to live, to act, to experience everything without needing some grand purpose. And once you start seeing life through this lens, everything changes. You stop waiting, you stop hesitating, you stop worrying about things that don't matter. Instead, you start living. From the moment we're born, we're told that life has a purpose. Society, religion, culture, all of them, give us answers. This is the right path. This is what you must do. This is what will give your life meaning. So we spend our lives searching, looking for meaning in success, relationships, beliefs, ideologies, achievements. But what if the truth is this? There is no meaning, not written in the stars, not waiting to be discovered, not hidden in some ancient text. At first, that might sound terrifying, but Camus saw it differently. If life has no meaning, then you are completely free, free from expectations, free from pressure, free from the burden of needing a reason to live. And in that freedom, you gain something extraordinary, the power to create your own meaning, not because the universe gives it to you, not because some higher force demands it, but because you choose it. Camus' message is simple yet profound. Live fully, laugh loudly, love deeply, create, explore, experience, not because life has a purpose, but because you are alive, and that, in itself, is enough. One must imagine Sisyphus, happy. Albert Camus. What do you think? Do you agree with Camus' view on life and meaning? Let me know in the comments. Now that we've explored Camus' philosophy and how embracing the absurd can free us, let's dig a little deeper into what this really means for our everyday lives. Because it's one thing to understand the idea intellectually, but it's another to live it out. Embracing life without a script. Think about it. Most of us grow up believing life comes with a script. There's a path we're supposed to follow, a checklist of milestones, like school, career, marriage, kids, retirement. We're told that if we check all those boxes, life will have meaning. But what if that script doesn't actually exist? What if life is more like a blank page, and we're the ones holding the pen? Camus' Absurdism invites us to stop waiting for a script or a grand cosmic plan, and instead start writing our own story. Not because someone else says it's meaningful, but because we decide it is. That's a huge shift. It means you're not a passenger in life, waiting for meaning to show up. You're the author, the creator, the rebel. The power of choice. This freedom comes with responsibility. When you accept that there's no predetermined meaning, you also accept that you're responsible for the meaning you create. That can feel overwhelming. No one likes the idea of being alone with that kind of freedom. But it's also incredibly empowering. You get to choose what matters to you. Maybe it's your relationships, your creativity, your passions, or your impact on others. Maybe it's the small moments, the laughter with friends, the beauty of a sunset, the satisfaction of a hard day's work. Whatever it is, it's yours to define. And the best part, because there's no ultimate meaning handed down from above, your meaning can change. You're free to evolve, to try new things, to redefine what matters as you grow. Living with the absurd means embracing uncertainty. Another important piece of Camus' philosophy is accepting uncertainty. The universe doesn't owe us answers, and life is unpredictable. That can be scary, but it also opens up space for wonder, curiosity, and adventure. When you stop demanding certainty, you start to appreciate the mystery of life. You start to see that not knowing can be a gift. It pushes you to explore, to question, to experience that. It invites you to be present. Finding joy in rebellion. Camus calls living in the face of the absurd a form of rebellion, but it's not a bitter rebellion. It's a joyful one. It's saying, yes, life is chaotic and meaningless, but I'm going to live it fully anyway. It's choosing to find happiness not despite the absurd, but because of it. Because when nothing is guaranteed, every moment becomes precious. Every choice becomes an act of creation. Every smile, every act of kindness, every burst of laughter is a victory. Practical ways to rebel against the absurd. So, how do you bring this rebellious joy into your daily life? Be present. Stop waiting for some future moment when life will make sense. Find meaning in the here and now. Create, whether it's art, music, writing, or building something. Creation is a powerful way to assert your freedom. Connect. Relationships remind us that even in a meaningless universe, love and connection are real and valuable. Accept failure and impermanence. Don't fear setbacks or endings. They're part of the cycle, part of the freedom. Laugh at the absurd. Humor is a powerful tool to cope with life's contradictions and uncertainties. Why this matters today in today's world. It's easy to feel lost or overwhelmed. We're bombarded with messages about what success should look like, what happiness should be, and what our purpose must entail. But Camus' message cuts through all that noise. It reminds us that none of it has to define us. Unless we let it, we can choose our own path. We can find joy in the struggle. We can live fully, even without a grand cosmic plan. And that's a powerful, hopeful message. It means that no matter how chaotic or confusing life gets, we always have the power to choose how we respond, to choose meaning, to choose happiness, to choose happiness, to choose freedom. That's the heart of Camus' Absurdism, a call to live boldly and authentically in a world without inherent meaning. If you're still with me, thanks for sticking around. Let me know in the comments how you relate to this idea. Have you ever felt the absurd in your own life? How did you deal with it? As we come to the end of this journey through Camus' philosophy and the idea of the absurd, it's worth reflecting on what it really means for us today. Life doesn't come with a guaranteed meaning or a perfect plan laid out for us. The universe doesn't owe us answers, and sometimes it feels cold and indifferent. But that's not the end of the story. It's actually the beginning of a new one where we get to take the pen and write our own meaning. Camus showed us that freedom isn't about having a clear purpose handed down from above. It's about embracing the absurd, the clash between our search for meaning and the silence of the universe, and choosing to live fully anyway, choosing to push your boulder, even knowing it will roll back down, choosing to smile, to laugh, to love, to create, not because there's some grand reason, but simply because it's worth it. This is the rebellion Camus invites us to join, a rebellion not against the world, but against despair, a rebellion that says, I will live my life on my own terms, with joy and courage, even if the universe never gives me a reason. And that's a powerful message for all of us. So, what's your boulder? What's the thing you keep pushing, day after day? Are you ready to imagine yourself happy, even in the face of the absurd? Remember, freedom is not about escaping life's challenges or pretending they don't exist. It's about embracing them, accepting the uncertainty, and choosing to live anyway, choosing to create your own meaning, choosing to find joy in the struggle, choosing to be fully alive. If this video has inspired you or made you think differently about life, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and share your story. And if you want to dive deeper into philosophy, meaning, and how to live a fulfilling life, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching. And remember, one must imagine Sisyphus happy. See you in the next video.